Hello, and this is another episode of the Small Bear Show, named after a stiff teddy bear that was given to me at my birth. I'm Alex S. Johnson. I'm an author, editor, journalist, artist, um, publisher, now filmmaker. And a stiff teddy bear, much like this, was given to me um, by at my birth by a guy named John Cordy, who was an Academy Award winning filmmaker, best known for having directed the film Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure for George Lucas. And he was the guy who was basically responsible um, for the mobile film studio concept, which became omni-zoetrope or American zoetrope, and of course that's George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola, and omni-zoetrope or American zoetrope actually produced such films as Bram Stoker's Dracula, talk about transgressive, right, and Apocalypse Now, and Koyaanisqatsi, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's the origin story of the short form of the origin story of the small bear. And I guess I have a couple of claims to fame. One is that the author, songwriter, and screenwriter John Shirley, I guess best known to most people as the guy who wrote the film um, The Crow with David J. Scow, and that came out in 1984. That was the original Crow that starred Brandon Lee, and who was, notoriously um, well, David J. Scow. I saw him at Fangoria many
Hmm.
years ago, and he said something about, he was asked about, then they were talking about The Crow too, and he said, he laughed and he said, well, something about filmmaking being war, right? And so yes, so he did call me the Baudelaire of our time, as well as my book, The Flowers of Doom, which is inspired, of course, as the title might indicate, by
Yeah.
Baudelaire. It, so he said that, Shirley said that about my book, and Shirley also blurred my 2012 book, the I'll just read it because it's really, I'm humbled beyond words. John Shirley wrote about my 2012 poetry and prose collection, The Death Jazz. Um, Alex S. Johnson's poetry is edging towards a new kind of hybrid multi-genre noir slash sci-fi slash surrealism. Go over the edge with him. Right? That's John Shirley, right? We wouldn't have essentially cyberpunk, the Matrix. We wouldn't have the
Hmm.
Matrix without John Shirley. Absolutely not. We wouldn't have a number of albums by Blue Oyster Cult without John Shirley. One of my favorite songs by John Shirley is The Old God's Return. And it has lines like, now is the time, the old God's return, now is the time water begins to burn. And I've actually pilfered that line more or less in poems because that's such a neat concept. My first encounter actually with Shirley was on Facebook, and he's since defected and pulled out of social media, but and it was over that we were talking about that song, The Old God's Return. And last year I did an interview with him, which is available on Horror Sleaze Trash, um, called The Old God's Return, and an interview with John Shirley. And I guess the other claim to fame, well, several claims to fame. Two of my books, The Doom Hippies and Skull Vinyl Poems 2012 to 2017, are in the Widener Library of Harvard University, which houses such items as, the first folios of William Shakespeare and, the Gutenberg Bible and the scribed copy of Boswell's Life of Johnson, among many other things. So I guess you could say I've arrived at a certain level of distinction that gives me authority to say things. And I'm here with David Sisson. And David Sisson is a writer who's based in Liverpool, United Kingdom. He is quite an affable guy. However, his writing is nothing short of terrifying. And his ability, much like people like Dennis Cooper, who admits that he's a very much of an inspiration, and we're going to talk about some other inspirations and influences of yours, David. Um, but so y- David actually approached me. When was this? About 4 months ago, or approximately, or further back?
E-
Or
It might have been around September time last year. Yeah.
yes. Okay. So that's a long time ago. And David's what had a negative experience with, I won't say their name, but a splatterpunk writer in England who's known for torture porn and who is very adversarial to me in their network and specifically personally has attacked me in public. So I'm not predisposed to, anything that comes out of their mouth is not, and they in turn have a friend, a close friend who, inspired by the fact that this person has an animosity towards me, has literally threatened to murder me for the last 7 months, every day on Facebook. That guy's name is David L. Tamarin, who lives about in Andover, Massachusetts, which is across the country from me. I'm in California, and he claims that he's afraid for his life because I'm a violent and dangerous man, which is just absolute fucking bollocks. So anyway, enough about those people. Um, I take up a lot of, you know, rent-free space in their heads. Um, Neato, right? I'm just living there in their dark attic. Um, so that is, you know, a prelude to talking about this delightful gentleman we have here, David Sisson. And so what was, I mean, I've sort of told a little bit about the circumstances. So from your perspective, why did you approach me in the first place?
Right. Okay. So, um, I had a not particularly great experience with a established independent writer. Um, and I just thought to myself, do you know what? I want to write. Um, I'm a great starter when it comes to writing, but I'm a terrible finisher, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Like so many, I procrastinate. I think because when you're passionate about something, you want to produce the very best you can,
Yeah.
and sometimes if you don't produce the end product you're looking for, you will procrastinate. You think, well, you know what, this isn't for me. But I was friends with yourself, Alex, on Facebook, and I could just tell you had a track record. You had some amazing connections within the industry. And the kicker is
That
you had a strong teaching background.
I do, yeah.
And so basically, you were ticking all the boxes for me. Because even though I know about the process of writing, I think everyone needs a mentor.
Yeah,
They do sometimes need that bit of guidance, that helping hand. And yeah, very much the truth is that I basically approached yourself, and I wasn't really even expecting an answer because I know how busy you are with your various projects, but you got back to me right away. And yeah, 5 months later, we're here now.
we're here now. Yeah. And I,
Yeah.
I want to speak to that point, David. None of us get here, and this is a point that Caitlin or Kieran has made, that none of us get here in isolation. We are truly indebted. And I will just name a few people. Billy Martin, aka Poppy Z Bright, is my peer. I'm actually, I think a year older than they are. But somebody that I have enormous respect for, and I learned so much from. I could tell that this was going to be a star. Um, back in the back in the 90s, when I saw an ad for the book Swamp Fetus in the pages of Cemetery Dance magazine, and even before his Billy Martin's first book Lost Souls came out, I called up Delacorte Press in New York, and I asked for a advanced reading copy. And so I was an early adopter of Poppy Z. Wright, and I've never regretted that. If anything, this is somebody who has been. I'll just for a visual, somebody whose work has been lauded by people like Peter Straub and Stephen King. This is Are You Loathsome Tonight? And it
Mhm.
is from who put this out? Gauntlet Press. Oh, incidentally, I just discovered in my stuff. This is you'll love this, David. Oh wow. We got Fucked Up
Spooky.
Hotels cover
Oh yeah, yeah, I've
by
seen.
Bill
Yeah.
Plimpton. Yeah,
Mm.
Bill Plimpton, the animator. I created that series. It's a very extremely transgressive fairy tale series that went on for about 6 volumes between 2016 and early 2017, and that had people like Tiffany Morris. Tiffany Morris, um, Elegies to Rotting Stars, I believe, was their book that came out, and people like Garrett Cook and what have you, who's not a fan of mine, but regardless. Okay, so I found this. I found this in my boxes. This is from Gauntlet Publications. It's 1996, and this is a special signed edition of Firefly Burning Right. Right, it's limited to 350 numbered copies. This is number, um, it's hard to read. I can't read that. I don't know, but this is signed by Barry Hoffman. And if you don't know who Barry Hoffman is, you know who Barry Hoffman is,
Mm.
right? Gauntlet Publications, they publish Clive Barker,
Oh right, okay, sure.
right? Um, and so this is some of the um, so this is that Barry Hoffman had actually this is going to be a nice segue into talking about your background. Um, had actually commissioned me in 1995 to interview
Hmm.
Clive Barker. And so that's how I got to know Barry Hoffman.
Hmm.
And um, in this, so he's had so Hungry Eyes, I guess was Hungry Eyes was something that he wrote or was okay, yeah, this is how important Barry Hoffman is, right?
Hmm.
Barry Hoffman, I'm going to show our viewers, this limited edition, signed limited edition of Are You Loathsome Tonight by Poppy Z. Bright. This is what Wow, I just can't believe this one must be worth a fortune. You know, yeah,
Mm.
find it 350 copies of this. Advanced praise for Hungry Eyes, which was another um, work that Hoffman wrote. Um, and this is pretty. I mean, I was an early adopter of Gauntlet magazine as well. If so, it says if you enjoy Firefly Burning Bright, you'll want the signed hardcover limited edition of Hungry Eyes. Um, okay, quote, a powerful piece of work. Hoffman brings you as close to a serial killer. This is ties in directly, right, with what we're going to be talking about. Brings you as close to a serial killer as you ever dare to be. Hungry Eyes puts a new face on horror. Now that is by no less than Robert Bloch wrote that
Hmm.
about Barry Hoffman, right? Um, okay. The first it says, well, this is taking me way, 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 way back. Special offers. Buy the numbered edition of Hungry Eyes and get free the premier edition of Gauntlet featuring Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, Harlan Ellison, Dan Simmons, Ray Garton, and many more. So this is just like we're talking about the giants of our
Yeah.
field. Number two, buy the leather deluxe edition, and you get a copy of Gauntlet number two, the Stephen King special with King's The Dreaded X. So that was Stephen King. So
Hmm.
this is some other people who had to say about this guy, um, Barry Hoffman. Um, okay, so Hungry Eyes is a fast-reading, complex, fascinating debut. Barry Hoffman's characters come to life on the page and resonate long after the intricate story is done. Poppy Z. Bright. Absolutely terrific, William F. Nolan. An admirable first novel that raises legitimate questions regarding the cycle of abuse and where the next generation of victims are headed. Nancy Collins. Let you know, let you know how knocked out I was by the book. It's a great book, one you should be proud of. Charles D. Lint. Hungry Eyes was intelligent, compelling, and one of the most readable books I've picked up in some time. S.K. Epperson. Hungry Eyes is mean and lean, and it's my favorite type of novel. Very dark, very creepy, very suspenseful, but also intelligent and thoughtful. Richard T. Chismar, Cemetery Dance Magazine. Okay, so can't get more better. I should put this in some sort of vault or something, right? Fire safe at least. Um, and yeah, so the high praise indeed. And recently, last year, late last year, I and my collaborators, Aaliyah Celeste Williams, who, is of course my friend, very, very close friend of the last 3 years, and we started the Small Bear show. It was initially the Small Bear and Pickles show together. And I and our friend Sandy DeLuca, who's a writer in Providence, Rhode Island, um, wrote a book called Thunderstruck, a dark poetry collection. And this recently received a rave review in Cemetery Dance magazine. And this was especially singled out Aaliyah. Um, and
Who
so
who did the artwork for that, Alex?
Oh, Sandy DeLuca. And
Oh,
the
okay.
um the design was done by our longtime friend who's done about 10 of our covers and banners and all that, guy named
Yeah.
Adrian Baldwin, um who is responsible for this wonderful magazine called Phantasmagoria. And he does,
Oh, yeah.
which
Yeah.
has all of this. This is the most recent um, volume of Phantasmagoria. I was in on the ground floor. I've been in numerous issues of the magazine and his anthologies, right? And this, I have a story in here alongside no less than Ramsey Campbell. So you're right. And actually, so shout out to Ramsey Campbell and Adrian Baldwin, as I'm going to show you, because actually facing this, so we have on the left-hand side, we have Adrian Baldwin,
Okay.
and he also did the covers for everything, the Motorhead tribute, the David Bowie tribute, the Bauhaus tribute, which we're going to be
Mhm.
shortly getting into. And this is facing an original limerick by no less than Ramsey Campbell. So I am in here with Ramsey Campbell. And um, so then, so who was also a really good friend and a mentor to Poppy Z. Bragg. Now, this is also from um, Barry Hoffman and drop my good thing it's not soap in a shower in a penitentiary. Um, you know, things could get loose and plugged. Um, Are You Loathsome Tonight? Which is one of
Mhm.
my favorite, you know, actually the this is the cover. I believe this is um J.K. Potter. It's J.K. Potter. J.K. Potter. Oh, I'm full of show and tell today, man. J.K. Potter did the photographs for that illustrated this thing, which is from 1996. I think it was the same year as the as that chat book, right? And it's what so the cover is by a guy named was it Joe Coleman, right? Like Carbon 14 magazine, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then so this is called Poetic Gore, an interview with Poppy Seabright by myself, and the photographs by Jeff Potter. And I was like, I was working for this. I was actually working for um, as an accounting clerk, even though I have math dyslexia. I was working as an
Mhm.
accounting clerk for this for Kaiser Permanente in it's a it's a big HMO here in the United States, and it's basically the largest employer of private employer of in the United States, and it's also completely corrupt and awful.
Mhm.
And so I was an accounting clerk for 5 years, and there. So are you loathsome tonight? So I remember being on the phone with Barry Hoffman, and I was talking to and he was sort of dictating to me. I had to grab an envelope, just like a stray envelope for
Mhm.
what's not my property is Kaiser Permanente. It's my job, sort of like the David J. Haskins anecdote about writing Bela Lugosi's did. So I grab an envelope, and Barry Hoffman is a very rapid fire guy, and he was dictating. Say, okay, so I want you to ask, um, you know, uh, Clive Barker about this, and this, right? And so I was like furiously scratching, writing it down, and I was like, and one of my coworkers was like, you're going to be interviewing Clive Barker. What are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know, man. I have to pay rent. Right? I have to pay for my bills. I have to pay for my phone bills because I'm talking to Poppy Z Bright a lot. And, she was in New Orleans. So she is still, Billy Martin is still in New Orleans. And so this is the signage for this. This is one of a signed limited edition of 2,000 copies of Are You Loathsome Tonight? Um, and you'll see if you can read the signatures.
Nice. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
That is Poppy Z Bright, Peter Straub, who did the introduction, and Caitlin R. Kiernan, our friend Caitlin R. Kiernan. So this is leads right away into what we're going to talk about. Um, so when David, came to me and asked me, hey, so you've got a lot of experience going back. I've been publishing since the 90s. My first published story was in this magazine Blood Songs magazine, which was called Pen and Incubus. And actually, what's very fascinating about this, you know Edward Lee, right? And, you know, everybody knows if you write splatterpunk, you know Edward Lee.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I also interviewed King Diamond and Ronnie James Dio for the same magazine, and but and there's also a John Skip connection here too. So, but also it's got Neil Gaiman. Oh boy. Um, so okay, Pen and Incubus is my first published horror short story, and
Okay.
the tale so shocking that we couldn't even even put it in the table of contents. Well, truth be
Mm.
told, they were high. They, you know, so they just forgot about it. Anyway, um, so so right up to now, um, of course, we, Poppy Z. Brite, Billy Martin got their start back in the late '80s, early '90s, and was sort of like part of this wave of was associated with um, I guess splatterpunk, but the next generation, right? Because first you
Mhm.
had people like David J. Scow, you had Craig Spector, you had, and then okay, so we can talk about David J. Scow a little bit.
Mhm.
So because
He coined the term, didn't he?
coined the term splatterpunk.
Yeah.
Right. He coined the term, and it began kind of as a joke. It was sort of these people in and around this bookstore in Hollywood that
Mhm.
they frequented. Um, I think it was because Shirley and William Gibson had the whole cyberpunk thing, and they're sort of joking, "What are we going to call ourselves? We're going to call ourselves splatterpunks." It started out as a joke, and then it sort of snowballed. And our friend, the guy Paul M. Salmon, who's writing a story for the Black Sabbath book, which I would love to have something from you for the Black Sabbath book,
Yeah, sure.
is you know, he worked on he worked on Blade Runner, right? So there's so many fascinating connections. Now, um, so I want to stop babbling. So we were working together. We did three or four workshops together,
Hmm.
and that evolved into a friendship and a kind of a very productive kind of exchanges about all sorts of things. And it just occurred to me that, well, might as well get something out of the deal, you know, like you invest in somebody, and just because I'm a developmental editor, because I was a developmental, I have a certification as a developmental communications instructor. I'm a professional developmental communications instructor, which means I got taught like people who are on the struggle bus with writing, how to write. You know, people sometimes people had, you know, disabilities such as myself, you know, learning disabilities, or there were older students or non-traditional students. And so the beauty part of it is it doesn't matter how old you are, or how little or how much education or experience you have,
Hmm.
anybody can be a writer. And when great ex well, the people who are writing for stories and have contributed to mostly original work to this book that we're going to be discussing, White and White, a literary tribute to Bauhaus. And so it just so why don't you? I'm tired of talking. Why don't you talk about the sort of the process that led us to um, start, you know, considering you as a potential author for the Bauhaus book.
Okay. I think if I remember correctly, you gave me an exercise of taking any sort of situation during the day and writing as much about it as possible.
Mhm.
What I saw, what I heard, smells,
Right.
pretty
Smells.
much, yeah, everything. And I picked
Tactile too,
something,
right? You got the tact. Well, that's something that I really internalized from talking all those conversations with Poppy Bright,
yeah,
and also reading um his work, and I really I think you have to do your diligence, and so I studied him, and certainly I'd always been a fan of Harlan Ellison and people like
hmm
that, and Stephen King, and I just sort of somebody was talking about Stephen King, like the their ability to just put you into the story, immerse you into the story with like by the density of the detail. And anyway, I'm sorry, just please go on.
no, not at all. And so I provided you with this exercise once it was complete.
Right.
You seemed pretty happy with it, and I think the last part of it involved me being in the shop, buying, I think it was a couple of energy drinks, and then going to the
Oh,
cashier.
hello. Um, that's my mom, but um, yeah. So I'm sorry. It's Special Olympics. Hey, I've been wanting to talk to you. Okay. Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, this is really good. I'm doing a Zoom interview with conversation with one of my writers. I'm an author, editor, and publisher, and this is highly fortuitous because I work with some of the most renowned writers in the world, and I'm not even kidding you. And we're doing a uh, a book. It's an anthology called We Are Gregor, a disability rights anthology. And I, the idea was to donate all the proceeds to Special Olympics. And I've been trying to get a hold of you guys, actually, because we have, I don't know if you, it's like if either if you read books um or if you listen to music or watch movies. I mean, some of the people that we have as authors that are contribute to my publishing imprint, like people like John Shirley, who wrote the movie The Crow, and it was a songwriter for Blue Oyster Cult, and a guy named David J. Haskins, who's founded the band Bauhaus and wrote Bela Lugosi's Dead, and people like that. And so we're a sort of an international sort of a media sort of a media conglomerate, that I run out of my home in Carmichael, California. It's a suburb of Sacramento, and I'm disabled. I mean, I have a brain trauma, brain injury. I'm also have dyscalculia. It's a specific learning disability, and when I was a teenager, I actually volunteered for Special Olympics. I've also taught developmental communications, right? And as professionally, so I'm a professional educator as well. And so I've been trying to get a hold of you because I really wanted to have a liaison with those Special Olympics. I'm doing another book which is for the Children of the Night Incorporated, which is more like they rescue, children from pimps and pornographers, and that's called, it's a literary tribute to Black Sabbath. And I mean, I have, I work with some of the most famous writers, on the planet, you know, and so, as Children of the Night is my official charity partner, and so as well as, I'm also working with Red Cross. And so, I don't know if you could put me in, I'm sorry, David, I'm sort of, I'm doing this Zoom thing for my YouTube show as well. But I just thought if you could put me in touch with anybody who could be the liaison with Special Olympics for in terms of like I'm a publisher, I'm a okay, I'm going to tell you like how well known I am as an author or how, two of my books are collected in the Widener Library at Harvard University, which also houses like the first folios of William Shakespeare, okay? And I'm not even kidding. So, like, who do I talk to as far as coordinating, I'm going to be donating, all the proceeds from this book. It's called We Are Gregor, a Disability Rights Anthology to Special Olympics. But, so far I haven't had any luck talking to you guys or I've called to several times. I was like, what? Never return my calls. I'm still going to donate, but, it's kind of frustrating. Yes. Yes, sure do. Hmm. Okay. Okay, excellent. Well, see, we are, see, it's the other way around, okay? I mean, I'm trying to impress upon you that we are going to be donating thousands of dollars to you, but we don't have any money because we're generating money for charity. Okay, so my mom is not going to have any money for you. We have already donated money to you. Okay, so I'm going to call that number, and I hope it's the right number. Thank you. The cheek.
Who was that?
That was Special Olympics. The cheek. They wanted to talk to my mom to be like, for her to donate. It's like, we're already there. And I'm telling her, I'm trying to impress upon her that we're going to be donating thousands of dollars to them. And all they want to do is talk to my mom. It's like,
Hmm.
so yeah, so did you not hear me? It's basically it. But seems to be, I can't get mad at people. I have to be
Hmm.
compassionate.
Why were they calling your mother? Was it like a telemarketer?
Yes.
Okay.
So
That
anyway,
was
I
that was handy.
apologize for that. So that was
That's
useless.
okay.
That was useless. I apologize for wasting your time. So anyway,
No, not at all.
okay. So
We're live anyway.
yeah, right, exactly. We're actually this is a pre-record, but we're gonna be putting this up. So so could you like so we started developing the story, what turned out to be the story Double Dare, using exercises. So you tell us, our my viewers a little bit more about some of these exercises.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was I had to pick a certain event, everyday event. I picked something as mundane as going to the local supermarket to buy a couple of energy drinks and then to come home. And I basically described everything using every sense
Yeah.
and got served by this very like over friendly young man. Um, which was the only human contact I had within the store. And you went through it all. You seemed to like it, even though it was very bland. And I think you added,
Bland.
hmm?
What you're talking about the first draft?
Oh no, sorry. The exercise itself was is
Oh
it
yeah, the
what I was
exercise
describing?
itself.
Very very
It's just like
mundane event, but I
yeah.
think I did note on it that I got served by this very over-friendly young man, and I think you made a note after you read it saying, "Now imagine he was a serial killer."
Exactly.
And that was something like that was the basis for Double Dare. So it was pretty much um you provided that prompt and oh right, okay, yeah, classic,
Yes.
classic.
Yes.
I enjoyed the Killing for Company, which is based on Dennis Nielsen and then also The Shrine of Jeffrey Dahmer. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Brian
exactly.
Masters is fantastic. Yeah.
Which were two books that were directly inspirational to Poppy when he wrote Exquisite Corpse without ever having visited England.
There we go.
Yes, thank you.
One
Oh
of
my
my
God.
one of my favorites. Yeah.
And I had the original TypeScript. I mean, not the like the original like but I have a friend who owns one of the Ralph Steadman illustrations to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
I mean, the original Ralph Steadman.
Hmm.
But I didn't have the TypeScript, but I had a copy of the TypeScript with the original ending.
Hmm.
So that was pretty amazing. And I interviewed Poppy at the World Horror Convention in Atlanta in 1995, which was the first time that they'd read from Exquisite Corpse. And then we were, also had a reading of Bela's Plot by a somewhat inebriated Caitlin R. Kiernan. So that was pretty cool. And was it the first time? Yeah, was it the, I think that was the first time that I met Caitlin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So please go ahead. So we're talking about developing Double Dare.
Absolutely. So I went over it and I sort of tried to imagine he was probably a nice person in real life. What if this young man who served me, this over friendly young man, had a very dark side, and I just started brainstorming in the
Right.
very usual way that what writers do, and tried to figure out where he'd live, what he was like as a youngster, and once I had that, like, once I developed the character, I then sort of combined that with his working life within the supermarket, and very easily came up with a plot for a short story. And then, yeah, I just went through, got the first draft. I think you enjoyed it. That was the first time you were sort of
Yeah.
exposed to anything I'd written. So,
Well, there was also another character, well, it's an actual person
mm.
initially, whom uh, you encountered at the grocery store or the market, and it was a young woman,
Oh
uh,
yeah, okay. That
bad
was
skin or something like that, or
the love interest within the
I love it.
story. The
Yes,
love interest, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I don't want to give too much away because it's we're pretty. I finished the story now, but I know it's gone to you for like the final edit. But
right.
it's basically about a a man who had a very, shall we say, deviant past, who's tried to redeem himself, get on the straight and narrow. But like Michael Corleone, he gets dragged back in.
I was just, well, I mean, I was just that's interesting that you raised the subject of Michael Corleone because it was the filmmaker that I'm working with. We've been talking about well, a number of things. So we're making Vanessa H. Smith. Shout out
Hmm.
to Vanessa. I'm going to be talking with at 1 o'clock. Um, that's my other Zoom meeting, and she's making a movie in and around me and my life and career and associates,
Hmm.
and the this anthology called Burning Hearts, a Disability Rights Anthology,
Yeah.
and some of the people that we have in that book like Tara Van Flower from the band Lycia, right? It's the Dark Wave Legends, who they collaborated with Typo Negative. And
Hmm.
shout out to Tara Van Flower, who's a protege of Jarbo, who's also in the Bauhaus book, who's also in
Yeah.
the Burroughs book, right?
Hmm.
Junk Merchants too, literary tribute um, to William S. Burroughs, and they both have. Well, the Burroughs book has an introduction by Poppy Z. Bright, Billy Martin,
Hmm.
and the forward, and who also wrote the forward to the Bauhaus tribute,
Sure.
and of which Double Dare is a contribution. And I actually just sent off because I had to because we're up against a deadline. I just sent off the entire um, the full manuscript was nearly 100,000 words to Billy
Wow.
Martin, as well as and I CC'd David J. Haskins. So right, so your stuff is in the hands of the guy who wrote Bill Lugosi's Dead and
Wow. Okay.
Poppy Z. Bright. So I think I have a friend just a new friend um, who's very interesting person named Oceana Teppenhart, if I've had on the Small Bear show before, and I will have again, and she's a kind of well, this kind of ties in with your story, David, because among she's one of the major influencers on the planet. She has like, or they, I'm sorry, they, non-binary transgender, apologize, Oceana. They have 50,000 followers on Medium. So that's pretty
Wow.
prodigious, right? And so they were all excited that I included their something that's called a note from a fan, right? A note from a fan in this in the Bauhaus tribute. So shout out to Oceana and shout out to Vanessa Smith. And oh yes, Michael Corleone, right? Michael Corleone, because Vanessa, among other things,
Mm.
she made a movie called, well, she was in, heavily involved with a movie called In Search of Kundun, which was about Martin Scorsese's film of the and I when I think of Martin Scorsese, I sort of like start to think like, well, so it's about Martin Scorsese's film of, it looks like sort of like this, very serious and very intense and rapid clip. Yeah. And so it's all about His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the filming of Kundun, right, which is about
Okay.
struggle for, Tibetan liberation. And Vanessa was the location manager in India for that film. So she was working with, the Dalai Lama and Martin Scorsese, right? So
Mhm.
I'm going to be spending all day, except for talking with you and talking with Vanessa. I've been basically watching a whole bunch of films because we're making a series of features, documentaries, um, and documentary short subjects. And yeah, so it's all related. And then of course, um, you brought up, Michael Corleone. That's Francis Ford Coppola. And then as I said, like this goes back to the small bear thing, right?
Hmm.
Guy was responsible for American Zoetrope. I mean, John Cordy, who sent me the Steiff teddy bear when I was born, right? Same guy, John Cordy. That's amazing, right? It's truly
Hmm.
amazing. So, okay, so you're in this book with, let's see, Carrie Lee Chrome, who founded the band The Runaways and wrote the songs like Waiting for the Night as performed by Joan Jett, and
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
right, and and The Runaways, and of course California Paradise is heard on the soundtrack to the major motion picture of the same name, you know, as Sherry Curry was portrayed by Dakota Fanning, and Kristen Stewart was Joan Jett, and so yeah, so we've got an original sort of poem, song, lyric by Carrie Lee Crum, who is an amazing person, an amazing human being. Who's also in the Burroughs book. We have
Yeah.
Jarbo Devereaux, and
Chris from Scotland as well.
we have actually from Chris from Scotland is in the Burroughs book.
Yeah.
Yes, and as well as I think it was Garrett Cook is in that book, and everybody, Maxim Jakubowski, you should be in this book. We've got V. Vel from Research Publications, and we have
Mm.
David J. Haskins. So, and that's just a slim, introduction by Poppy Z. Bright, forward by Larry Jaffe. It's rich goodness. Graham Masterton is in this book. William Taylor
Mhm.
Jr. is in this book. I mean, everybody. G.R. Tomini, our friend who's one of the world's leading philosophers and public intellectuals, is in this book. And yes,
Yeah. I mean, it's a great honor for me because the caliber of writers involved, and um, there's no other anthology out there quite like it
yeah,
because I don't know. I know we were talking about it before we started recording, but there's not many anthologies which really sort of concentrate on the transgressive.
yeah,
Horror maybe, but it's not necessarily transgressive. So
right.
it's all your publications are incredibly unique, and
Thank you.
nobody else is quite doing it. So it's very exciting to be involved.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things that I'm really tried to do, and it's very conscient, very conscious and deliberate, is to show people the scope of what Bauhaus is. It's much more than Bela Lugosi's Dead.
Oh yeah.
We do have several stories that reference Bela Lugosi's Dead. We have a story it's, I don't think it's ever been published, by Nancy Kilpatrick.
Okay.
Right, there's just one person, just one contributor.
Hmm.
We have, but and then we have Ethan Morales, who was the guy from Spawn Ranch. The major kind of cult Gothic industrial band.
Hmm.
And it's also really kind of interesting connections too, because um, he as well has collaborated with David Haskins, and Jarbo has as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really interesting kind of nodes of networks. These all these fascinating nodes. Like you have because I have the background in music journalism, beat
Hmm.
beat literature, and dark fiction. There's such a there's such an overlap.
Oh yeah,
We look at
absolutely.
somebody like David J. Haskins, who was a huge, he calls himself a Burroughs obsessive.
Wow.
And, I was thinking a lot about how um, Bauhaus songs are very much, if you listen to them, you think about the lyrics, they're very beat poetry, and they're very much cut-ups as well. Like the song, Kick in the Eye, which
Hmm.
is like has lines that directly reference Jack Kerouac. And it's all about eyeball kicks. I never really thought about it until I started to put to plug it into the whole, beat literature thing. And I came out, whoa, searching for
Yeah.
a kick in the eye. It's like, you know, Jack Kerouac was always on about eyeball kicks, right?
And like Genesis from Robin Gristle met
Exactly.
Burroughs when they were very young, didn't they?
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's a fascinating story,
Yeah.
because, yeah, we really, I'm gonna have to pick this up later, and we're gonna do two parts because I have to talk to Vanessa.
Yeah,
But
fine.
um, but so I'll upload this as part one.
Okay.
We'll be, shivering with anticipation.
Patient.
Um, yeah, so it's all good. I mean, as I keep thinking about that line in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, is sort of like about the 60s, like you could strike sparks in any direction. It's like once you're sort of wired into this nexus of creativity between people, like-minded individuals, we're all sort of tuned into the frequency of whether, and we're all kind of taking transcription from the master, William S. Burroughs, no doubt, and
100%, yeah.
Philip K. Dick, right?
Hmm.
100% Philip K. Dick. And, the Beatles were as well. I think it's really so. Well, I wanted to talk about that because when you say Liverpool, everybody
Hmm.
thinks of the Beatles, right?
Of course, yeah.
Beatles. Um, and we were talking about like how Clive Barker, who's also a native son of Liverpool, has a kind of a different accent. I mean, you sound much more like the Beatles with a sort of lilting up, upturned lilt to it.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
I've been compared to Ringo a few
I
times,
mean,
so
it's quite delightful actually, you know. But that's a very kind of like as opposed to Clive Barker sounds very different. I mean, he sounds like the fantastique, right? The
yeah.
fantastique, the dark.
Hmm.
So that is but also a Liverpool accent, but it's kind of like how would you characterize that?
Sorry, Clive Barker's accent.
Yes.
I don't know. It's because he was educated in Liverpool. He grew up in Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think he left the city in. I'm sure he graduated at the University of Liverpool, but then he joined some sort of arts group down in London. So,
Yeah.
but as far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong on this, but the accent you have is usually from your formative years. So
Right.
wherever you grew up around maybe your teens and so on. So it's I don't know, maybe it's just all for show. Who knows? He
Okay.
might sound like me in real life or
Who
behind
knows?
closed
Who
doors.
knows? Yeah. I mean, I've met him a couple of times. He's a very nice guy, very sweet guy. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I was with the World Horror Convention at the White Wolf, the White Wolf, the gaming um people, and they put out some anthologies, and one of them was like had a what is a foreword by John Skip, and they had some really good, and they had this party at the World Fantasy in Atlanta, Georgia, and they had so I was just I have terrible social phobia. I mean, I get like the stark fear. It's just like I'd have to
Really?
really you know very well numbed by alcohol or whatever else in order to be able to just like for years and years and years, I would just, that's why I had a bit of a problem drinking because, social phobia, and then I got into like antidepressants and that was really bad for my brain as well. But I'm not saying it's not good for some people. I just really had a very adversarial reaction to them. And then, but I was just standing around and there's, there's the late great Dennis Etchison. Right. And he's talking with Michael Moorcock,
Hmm.
right, and Clive Barker. And they had some sort of fire, whatever, somebody who was fire breathing or playing with fire or something or other. And Dennis Etchison was saying, who's been, compared like to is sort of considered like to be the American um, American Ramsey Campbell, right? It's like, fire. He's doing the Beavis and Butthead thing. And so, and when I went to the signing with Clive Barker, I said, do you remember that Dennis Etchison was doing the Beavis and the Beavis thing? He laughed. I thought that was funny. Um, so yeah, but then you have Ramsey Campbell, who's one of the greats of all time, and certainly one of my biggest, made a huge impression on me. It was also both Clive Barker and Ramsey Campbell were both um, sort of fans of Burroughs. So,
Hmm.
and as a matter of fact, Ramsey did correspond with Burroughs when he was a teenager. At the same time, he did like the Haunter of the Lake, I believe. It was his first book. And so, but Ramsey too was a big inspiration for a young Clive Barker, right? I think in The Art of Darkness, he talks about how when he was a teenager and then Ramsey visited him or visited their class and he thought, oh my God, this guy is is delightfully weird. And
Yeah.
I could, I want to be like that. Um, and then, the story In the Hills, the Cities is actually a line out of Burroughs. So it's all goes back to I wanted to talk about, and we're going to have to pick this up, but what is transgression? What is transgression? We hear a lot about this, and it's a very controversial subject, and people get strong feelings about it.
Um, Living against societal norms, I suppose, in a very brief way. Um, it could include social taboos. Um, I suppose in a way it's like living or doing something the wrong way or what's frowned upon.
Yeah,
It's do you know what I mean? I throw the term around a lot, like transgressive and transgression, but sometimes when I'm asked to sum it up, it can be quite difficult. But yeah, I'd say going against the grain of society and their expectations.
right. And so now, for people who are not wired into dark fiction
Hmm.
or goth or which is very, 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 very related. I mean, you know, why so what's the distinction between, transgression and kind of being a sociopath? You had to think about that.
You've got me, Alex. You've really got me there. Um,
Because, people like Poppy Z. Bright were accused of being immoral just because they wrote about, you know, serial killers.
mm,
And there wasn't like a redemptive arc for them. It was just, or like lost souls. They're evil and they stay evil and they do evil things, and there wasn't like they didn't get better, and there wasn't like a cheery, well, the same people, the same kind of criticism was leveled at Oscar Wilde.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's putting yourself into the mind of someone who might be living that particular lifestyle or
Mhm.
doing certain things. I think
Right.
it's a safe way of experiencing. Like, if you read about something or you write about something, it's a lot safer than, let's say, being a heroin addict
Right.
because it's imaginary, but you're trying to make it as real as possible.
Right.
I suppose that's probably the best way to sort of describe it rather than doing it.
Yeah.
You're either writing it or you're reading about it.
Yeah. But what is the draw? What's the attraction? Why would anybody get into it?
Oh, a dark and maybe macabre curiosity I think I've always had. Um, you could probably ask like the vast majority of people who subscribe to things like Netflix, look at true crime.
Right.
It's a
Right.
very dark subject, but we're talking about millions of people who are interested in it,
Uh,
and
Yeah.
everyone might have a slightly different answer. Um, for me, it's just darkly, they have darkly interesting lives, certain people. Definitely something I would want to be involved in.
Right.
I think to me personally, it's just a curiosity more than anything else.
Right. So I remember like when I interviewed the late great Roz Williams
Hmm.
of Christian Death fame, and he was talking about how, you know, I don't know well about transgression, and he was talking about having somebody tied up in his basement or something like that. And I was like, whoa, 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 and he said, well, and then there was questions and considerations of, should we kill them now, or, and then he decided, well, maybe I'll just transgress and, you know, on paper,
Hmm.
rather than actually do that. But I mean, that was that was kind of, I have to admit that, people like we mentioned earlier, Genesis P. Orridge, um, regardless of what anybody thinks about them, certainly had a huge influence on, like, for example, David J. Haskins. And it was not necessarily all bright and cheerful. I mean, of course, we're talking about, you know, black magic and things like that, which has a tendency to really could fry your brain if you don't really, or for anybody, that kind of chaotic energy is really, and Haskins learned about sigil magic from
Hmm.
reading an interview with Genesis by V. Vale, and Industrial Culture Handbook, I believe. V. Vale is also a contributor to the Burroughs book, and that's how David Haskins got involved with some people like Alan Moore,
Yeah, yeah.
and got into some really, he said it deranged him.
Mm.
So, with another really, really interesting connection I have with that is that there was an a mockumentary that was made about 20 2010 or so. It was called Lint,
Okay.
and it featured people like my friend Mitzi Soreto, who I had recently on the show. She's the one who does, she's a true crime. You should talk to Mitzi. You should, if
Hmm.
you're not already friends with Mitzi Soreto.
Hmm.
She's a huge true crime fan, and she and Lucy Taylor, Lucy Taylor, right? Her work, right? Um, like they and her, Mitzi has this. It's a teddy bear called Teddy Tedaloo, who is writes collaborates with her, and you couldn't make this up. And they came up with, they were in Norfolk, England, and they came up with this idea for the Thelonious T. Bear Chronicles.
Hmm.
They were sitting there with Lucy Taylor, the Bram Stoker award-winning author of The Safety of Unknown Cities, who also blurred Lucy Taylor. Okay, I'm hate to toot my own horn, but I might as well. Lucy Taylor wrote about my book. Let's see if I have it with me. Very proud of this. Wicked Candy. This came out in 20, I think 2014. Okay. So you see, um, I don't know if you can see that, but
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
right. Um, uh, Bizarro horror laced with black humor. Wicked Candy is shocking, perverse, and at times extremely, and at times funny as hell. Lucy Taylor. So Yeah, man, I've been blurred by Chris Kelso and John Shirley and Lucy Taylor, so I'm set for life, right? Respect, man. These people are the masters. Um,
Of course, yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, anyway, so there was a guy named D. Harlan Wilson who was one of the original Bizarro people. Now he's
Hmm.
like a college professor and he's a really fascinating guy. He's in this movie along with Alan Moore. So Alan Moore, Mitzi, and her teddy bear, and D. Harlan Wilson.
Hmm.
And so I'm in touch with D. I was in several anthologies and magazines with with him.
Hmm.
And the whole idea was that they made a, a documentary about somebody another author who doesn't exist named Jeff Lint as
Okay.
Belly Lint, and it's all on YouTube. I mean, so just Google Lint the movie.
Lint.
Yes, as in belly lint. And you'll see
Hmm.
the delightful Mitzi Soretto and the delightful Teddy Tedaloo and the ingenious and very strange Ellen Moore and D. Harlan Wilson. So, one of these days, I hope to, I hope it, he doesn't mind that I said that, David J. Haskins said was deranged by him, not necessarily by, you know, Alan Moore, but maybe that whole vortex. But someday I hope to meet Alan Moore and to work with him, who is really another interesting connection is that,
Go on.
well, I have to go, but Graham Ray, who's a close friend of Chris Kelso,
Hmm.
interviewed has something called Studio Reality Studio.
Hmm.
It's also in Scotland, Scots. Now I'm Scots, I have a Scots heritage, and he interviewed. Not only did he interview, I think he interviewed Val Vale and
Hmm.
and and J.G. Ballard. He literally interviewed two of the, J.G. Ballard,
Yeah.
and I really have to go, David. It's been an absolute pleasure
To be
and
continued.
to be continued. So take good care, and I will be uploading this to my YouTube channel, and
Great.
we'll take it from there. Okay.
Thank you. See you soon. Thanks for watching.
See you soon. Bye bye.